Okay, this video is going to be tricky because I'm going to get into why we should be eating what we should be eating, okay? Let's start with some basic fundamentals to think about here when trying to answer this question. Human beings historically, consistently have been omnivores, and the advent of being a vegan or a carnivore are both actually relatively new ideas, okay? So we're going to approach this with the assumption that we are omnivores. I understand if people want to take a different stance and go do something else for themselves. If that might work for some people, I would say that it's rare, and the 99.9% of us are omnivores. And from there, we have to ask ourselves a question, which is, if we're an omnivore, how much plant should I eat? How much animal should I eat? Now, I think we should just be eating, plants and animals, and we're sticking in whole food framework with deciding what we eat. So, when it comes to the plant side of things, there's the importance of needing a diverse microbiome. So what is that? It's the amount of different bacteria that are doing work to break things down in your intestines that ends up pulling a lot of valuable nutrients out of food. And actually, they're kind of like, you can have steel go into a factory, but the workers are the ones who are going to be building stuff out of the steel that's going to come out of the factory. That kind of happens with our food. It's one reason we have such a large variety of impacts when we eat food. So your microbiome is going to shift throughout your life, and you actually have control over it. And I'll get into that in a moment. The other factor here with deciding how much meat we're eating, so because meat's not really contributing as much to the microbiome. It is a little bit, and we'll get into it. But the plants are really more of the concern there, and it's a real necessity to have a lot of this bacteria. It's really good for us. The other factor is the eating of the meat. Now, this kind of is determined on factors like how hot it is, because when you eat protein, it actually raises your body temperature. So in the summer, you probably want to have a little less. The other part of this is going to go into your genetics, okay? So if you are, someone who's coming from a more northern region like me, that means you have had to survive winters in your ancestry. Surviving winters requires living in a period of time where plants aren't producing fruit. If you grew up ancestrally, saying your history is from a tropical island, there is always fruit. For those of us who are more northern, we tend to have a shorter digestive tract. It's like 20 to 25 feet from mouth to anus of tubage for all of your digestion. In the other places, it's like 40 to 45 feet when you get closer to the equator. Okay? You also have people who are of mixed ethnicities. So we can't be looking at diet as a one-size-fits-all, because clearly we are as different on the inside as we are the outside. So we have these two factors. One is like our actual physical build of how our digestive tract is set up, and then we have this microbiome, which is shifting how we are digesting food. Now, everybody needs both plants and vegetables. I've noticed in the carnivore movement, I've noticed more Europeans being on it, and I've noticed for the vegetarian movements, I've noticed a lot more like Africans and Indians on it, which these are coming from places where they can probably eat a lot more plant foods. It's not always the case. I see exceptions across the board with this stuff, okay? Like, I have a white friend who's vegan, right? So it's I'm just saying what I've seen online. So it's interesting because it tends to correlate with this trend. Now, I know that there's like certain African groups that I know who are strictly carnivore as well. So it's, again, this is not this is not a rule. This is just an observation. Anyways, When it comes to us then making our own decision in our own lives, what we have to do is we have to take into account probably what our organs are doing, pay attention to how well we handle meat, and make our judgment from there. As I said before, stuff like being in the winter time, your body's going to want to generate more heat, and it's going to want heavier foods that crank up the temperature, so you have like your meat and potatoes. Um, but in the summer when it's hot, having stuff that's light like watermelon and a salad, it's nice because you get energy from the sun. You're not working with your digestion as much. Um, so playing with the seasons in your food is another factor in how we end up feeding ourselves. Okay, so we're going to want to feed good bacteria with the plants. Let's circle back to the microbiome here. We want to be eating, when we eat foods that are alive, we want to be eating foods that are alive. When we do that, that food has a live bacteria in it, and when we eat it, it actually gets incorporated to the bacteria of our stomach and helps break down that food. We actually can amplify this with doing stuff like fermentation, because those animals, those bacteria only survive underwater, and it gets rid of all the ones that we don't want, which survive using air. What you do with sauerkraut is you get a little, pieces of lettuce, you stick it in water, and you put some salt in there, and then all that bacteria ends up multiplying and thriving in there and breaks it down. And then when we eat that, we amplify the amount of bacteria we have in our stomach. This bacteria can actually help build like some of the neurotransmitters like serotonin that can be found in the gut. And this right here will give you an idea of why this is so important. They've done studies where they've shown mice on the exact same diet with different gut bacteria. One of them skinny, one of them obese, and they actually take some of the bacteria out of one of the thin mice that are healthy, and they put it in the obese mice, and it immediately they start losing weight and they get balanced. So we need to be eating these plants. We need to build a diverse microbiome, which means we can handle a larger array of foods, and that actually really helps us a lot. The other issue is if you eat a lot of meat, it can actually produce bad bacteria that break down carnitine. It's called TMAO, and TMAO is known for causing, I believe, inflammation. Potentially it's a carcinogen, so it can cause cancer. This can be reduced if you're adding stuff like garlic into your foods, oregano. These are things that reduce the impact of bad bacteria. So if you're making your food, you want to have a lot of plants. You want to be throwing in these spices because they end up clearing out bad bacteria. And you want to still be eating meat because a lot of us actually can have issues without it. A lot of them is like beef is like a multivitamin. Basically, it has a lot of the things we need. And eating organ meats like liver and stuff like that, these are important for our well-being. So sticking to whole food plant-based diet, while still having meat, the ratio is going to be different per person, but that's the foundation. The reason is because then you're able to get good bacteria into the system, so you have really good workers helping you break down this food. You're getting a wide variety of nutrients. You're going to want to eat a lot of different colors of food, and when it comes down to the amounts and types of food that might work for you, I'd suggest going online and looking at someone who looks like you, who is healthy, see what they eat, try some of it out, pay attention to how you feel, because sometimes you're just different. Again, your whole microbiome is different. Um, and try that out. Make sure you're eating fermented foods. So get foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, even yogurt. These things add bacteria in kefir. That's another really good one. If you're struggling with digesting milk and stuff like that, have some kefir. It has a lot of bacteria and it will help you break that stuff down. So incorporating all of these things into your diet, build a platform for your body to have a wide range of things that it can grab from for nutrients, all of the all the minerals, all the electrolytes. You get like magnesium and potassium from like some of these greens and stuff. You and like bananas. Have all the fruit. Have fruit, seeds, vegetables, and meat. Have some grains too. You can have rice and stuff. Like I'd be cautious around, again, a lot of the grains in the area because of the issue with how we're farming them here. Um, you can probably find high quality stuff that won't hurt you, but this is what food looks like, is a mix of plants and animals. And if you stick with that alone and just stick with eating whole foods and try to make sure they're as clean as they can, and you try to get some healthy bacteria into the system so you're breaking it down well, you will feel really, really good. These things actually will build neurotransmitters in the body. They found with people who have diverse microbiome, they actually have a larger array um, of these neurotransmitters. I need to actually find that segment in the book here, and I'll break that down for you a little more. But uh, this is crucial to how you feel, think, and how much energy you have throughout the day. So if you focus on this, I'm going to say it again: whole foods, clean organics as much as you can, like 90% of the time. Try to cook for yourself because there's a lot of issues with what's being made out there. And then I'll get into finding out the ratios of how much meat to plants you'll actually need. It's going to vary based on your genetics and the time of year and what physical activities you're actually doing. Okay. So in the next video, I'm going to start going over the actual macros. This is the side of food where most people pay attention to. But starting here and getting these to be the foods that you're choosing from, you're going to do great just alone there. You're more likely to actually get the satiety signal in your brain, because all your brain can say is, I'm hungry. If it's missing a nutrient, all it can say is, I'm hungry. Even when it's thirsty, sometimes it's just saying, hey, I'm hungry. Okay? So, bear these things in mind. These are the fundamentals. This is the basis of health when it comes to food. This is how you should be looking at it. If you look at it this way to start and then add in the macros, you're gonna go really, really far. Okay? Food is very complicated. These are the basics that we can pull from it. Sorry this video is going a little longer than usual, but really, really think about this.